Hi, Karen.
Hello, Bryn.
Welcome back.
I love it here, so thank you for having me.
Well, thanks. We love having you here. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago. It feels like forever ago. But we wanted to just talk more, mainly because I love talking to you, and I feel like I'm always learning from somebody who's been in this industry for so long, and just love hearing about what you're doing. So tell us a little bit about Mourning Space and how you got there.
Mourning Space is, I would say, like my soul work. I had been working, I don't know if I'd share this, but I'd been working in funeral homes since I was 18, and I'm 46 now. And I've done nothing but work in funeral homes until last year when I decided that it was time for me to make a change. And for a while, I was both working in funeral homes and started Mourning Space as a way to fill in some of the gaps of stuff I'd rather be doing outside of the job I'd had at the time. And basically I'd gotten to a place where I was more administrative and I wasn't really with the people anymore. And I want to hold people in their grief. Grief is really messy, and I've had to experience this a lot over the years. And I just learned over time that I was comfortable sitting in people's messes with them. And I was more able to do that as a death doula in many different capacities than I was working in a funeral home capacity. And able to work with people before they needed a funeral home and support them in their decision making that they'd eventually have to do, support them in the choices that they would have to make, let them know that choices exist, because they often don't even know that until someone passes, and then honestly sometimes they never learn. Like, how many people don't know that you exist or what you do?
Right.
When I saw that you were building in this building, I was working elsewhere, and there was the scuttlebutt in town at an aquamation place.
You came knock, knock,
I
knock.
did. I was like, what is going on? What's happening? Tell me more about this. And it was, in pieces. You were being built.
Yeah.
It was probably over a year before.
Yeah. It was still an active construction site.
It's still active construction. You're still trying to figure out how you're going to implement it all. And I was really curious, and I wasn't afraid of like coming in and having a conversation. And I was so grateful that Reading was going to get aquamation. And we talk a lot about the wonderful reasons why people would want to live in Reading. They highlight the public market, they highlight our river trail, they highlight all of the things that are great. But this is one of those hidden great things that people don't even know are exceptional. Because what are you, one of four maybe?
We're the third.
Third. You're the third aquamation facility in all of California.
In all of California.
Yeah. So to be able to have that option here in Reading, it blew my mind then.
Yeah. I know
when you were coming, and it still blows my mind. And as I go around sharing information with people about all of their options, I am quick to tell them that they have this here at home.
Yeah. You've known about aquamation, I think, for longer than we have.
Yes,
I mean, it's been
imagine.
on your radar for a really long time, and you've been a supporter kind of from the get.
Yeah. Well, as a funeral professional, it was. Well, and as a Xennial, whatever, Gen X or whatever, it was important to me to find choices that would resonate with me and my people. I'm from the Bay Area, and aquamation appeals to me as a consumer. Composting appeals to me as a consumer. It's not yet available in California, although it will be soon. It's legal, but 2027 it'll be an option. So just being able to explore what is out there and have. Funeral homes are notoriously slow at making change.
Yes. This industry as a whole
is struggles to be innovative. Yeah. So when people are being innovative, I'm trying to pay attention. And also hold the fact that even me, I do keep an eye. I'm like, who are you, new person to the funeral industry? What are you going to be doing? Yeah. Just because I've been in it so long and went to school, and so I am. I want the people in my community to be doing it for the right reasons, but I know that you all are. Yeah. So it's been great.
Yeah. We talk a lot about providing an option to families that are aligned with their values and how every family may have different values.
Right.
But the way the funeral industry has worked for so long is with this idea of there's one way of doing things, right? For the longest time, it was just every funeral looked the same, same set of flowers, the coffin, everything was set up the exact same way. You could look straight at any Hollywood movie and you know exactly what a funeral looked like. And I think in the last, a couple decades, there's been a shift with cremation in general that has kind of shifted our imagination for what memorials can look like. And I think that we're taking that even further, that people can even think about the way that the cremation is performed and doing it in a way that is dignifying to the body, dignifying to the earth. It's responsible. So we're really, really proud of water cremation, to the way we offer it as a service, but just being able to give people another option is something we're really proud of.
Yeah, I talk about being values aligned all the time. And as funeral professionals, we tend to talk with our own value system.
Yes.
And we really have to get out of our own way and ask people what's most important to them.
Yes.
And help them make their vision come true. And what's been interesting to me over the last, however many years, is watching the way culture still defines funeral services, and in a way that is sometimes very beautiful, and then also in a way sometimes that keeps us stuck in having services that we don't actually feel like resonate with us. And so then we have this resistance to doing it, and then we have put up a wall against doing everything at all. So I love when culture is utilized in end-of-life rituals, but I also love when people are able to find a ritual that's meaningful to them and be able to still participate in some kind of funeral rite, which I believe is integral to our health as our society, like community.
Yes.
And I tell this story too. It was easy for me to say that as a funeral professional, like, you should have funerals. Like, duh, why, like, why wouldn't I say that? But my friend Twee died in 2020. She was 41 years old, very prominent member of the community in San Francisco. People just adored her. And she died of cancer, and it's COVID time. And having her funeral, it was this period where it was like, things were closed, and then they'd open, and then they'd close. And then, so even in that period between her passing and when the funeral might take place, there was like an open and shut thing that happened, and we were trying to pivot. And what they ended up doing is going to the beach, Ocean Beach in San Francisco. There's all the seawalls, and she hung out with a lot of youth, and they wrote her name in spray paint on the seawall. So a whole chunk of seawall is just a memorial to her, and it's still up there. They still maintain it, but they painted this. They made circles in the sand 6 feet apart. Everyone had masks that said her name on it, Twee, and they just made it work in a time where they said no funerals.
I have chills.
Right.
I love that.
And it was organic. There was no choice other for them to figure out a way to be in community and honor her, even in a time where that felt impossible.
Yeah.
And they figured it out in a way that was responsible. Outside, 6 feet apart, everyone had masks on, and they just did it. And so watching her community rally and figure out ways to make it work taught me more than, people are always teaching me more than the stuff I learned in school.
Yeah, and I think what you're hitting on is we have this idea that funerals are for the sake of the person that passed, or the memorial is for the sake of the person that passed. But I think you're hitting on how it's a healing agent. It's a piece of the grief processing for those that are left behind. Can you say more to that?
I do. I want to recognize the fact that funerals are sometimes important and relevant to the person and their value system, right? So you might have very clear idea of what you want for you because of your upbringing, your culture, your belief system. So there's a piece of funerals that, yes, are a part of whatever it is your belief system are. Another piece, and an important one, is the way communities can grieve together, like you just said. And that's why we have them. And so we get caught up in this idea of what ritual might look like, maybe, or that rituals aren't for us. Like blowing out a birthday candle is a ritual. Yeah. Like we do countless rituals in our lives. And a funeral is one that allows us to be sad in public with our people, surrounded by love, and
which we're not great at doing.
Which we're not great at doing anywhere else, right? But there it's okay, right? So it's this place that we get to cultivate messy, and it's okay. And there's just power in being together. There's power in being together. Yeah. So I will say I don't like to tell everybody. I like to tell some people what to do, but I don't like to blanket statements. Everything is not for everybody. However, I try to tell people, please don't tell your family not to do something. Right. Because when you do that, you give them two choices. They can not do something because they honored your wishes, and maybe they're okay with that, maybe they're not. Or they do something anyway and then they feel guilty forever because they did something that was against your wishes. So what I tell people instead is tell people, don't spend too much. Like, don't stress out about it. Don't book the Hilton. Like, don't do all these things that I don't feel are necessary, but you do what is necessary for you to feel like you're able to honor me in some way and that feels appropriate for the situation.
Now, you're talking about planning ahead together, having those hard conversations ahead of time. And I think that's a part of what you do with your work is that you don't just come alongside families after a death has occurred. You're helping people to give voice to what they want for their own lives and what they want for their loved ones ahead of time. How does that work? How do you get people to actually sit down and, well, I'll say this. My mom had cancer twice. She beat cancer twice, and then she passed from COVID right after she was cancer-free when her immune system was compromised. And even through all of the cancer journey, we never really sat down and talked about what she wanted, and that created a lot of confusion in my family afterwards because we all had a different way of wanting to honor her. So coming from a family that had a mom that had lost her hair, and we still weren't sitting down and having those conversations about what she might want when she passed. How do you encourage families? When is the right time to sit down and make those plans? I know today, but like,
So the right time is when it's coming up for you, right? And so if there is some sort of death in your awareness and like, oh, I should, and it feels like I'm ready to have a conversation, that's what I was saying. Do something. Just like, even if it's just one step, I'm a big believer in like, just being methodical. Sometimes big picture's too big for you to conceptualize, and so you shut down. So it's one decision that you can make today and share.
Can you give an example of what one decision might look like?
Do I want aquamation? Do I want cremation? Do I want burial? Do I want green burial? Do I want stones made out of me? Do I want diamonds? Do I, any of these? Disposition tends to be the easiest place to start. And when I say disposition, I mean what happens to my body? What happens to my physical form? That tends to be a place where people have the most important, like, value-based feelings. But it tends to be where people go, just throw me in the whatever.
Right.
So
we hear a lot of that too. We hear, I'm not going to be here. Just do whatever. And where we try to help people understand, well, a lot of what happens to your body is, yes, you won't be here, but your family, the people that love you deeply, want to make sure that is something that you would have wanted, or even just that it feels right for them. And the other thing we talk about a lot is to be thoughtful about who your family is going to be, who's going to be walking your family through this process. And at Aquaterra, that is our huge responsibility that we feel is that we say, we're going to take care of your family. When you're not here, we have planning meetings. We have pre-planning sessions right here in our conference room. And there's something strange about the idea that one day we'll be taking care of some of the people in this room and one person will not be here, right? That's a strange, sobering idea. But that is our gift we can give every family that we serve, is that when one person is no longer here in this capacity, we will carry, we'll carry.
The conversation keeps going, and the people in the room are still aware. And know how to take care of you the best.
So you're saying the disposition question, that's one of the, maybe the
most logical to tackle, I would say, and where people might have the strongest opinion for themselves. And then you can look into more. And then there's all that stuff we don't talk about that's not just funeral arrangements, but like what happens to my stuff. So we talked a little bit about that before, of like, that's a part of all of the things that have to happen. When we tie up a life, we have to tie up not just like the way that we say goodbye, but then how do we handle everything that's left? And that's a chore. That's a big thing for people who are left to do. So how do we make that a little bit easier for them by talking about it ahead of time and making some of those decisions? Sometimes it's this battle, and it's often parents and kids, and sometimes the kid wants to talk about it and the parents don't, and sometimes the parents want to talk about it and the kids don't. And part of what Mourning Space tries to do is be in a place to talk about end-of-life topics in a way that feels approachable now. So as you hear it, you go, oh, like maybe it's not so bad for me to like have the conversation. Like maybe it is safer than I thought, but it does unstabilize people. As soon as you bring up death, it's like, whoa, that's like that's going to destroy my world. So I cannot talk about that. And and you sort of want to, my world's not destroyed right now, so let's just like keep it. But you could, like, there's less upheaval when you build a foundation. And that's, I speak a lot in metaphors. And that's what we're doing. Great. We're building this foundation so that later on your world is a little more steady. It's still there's still an earthquake happening.
There's still an earthquake, but that foundation is a little more steady. Yeah. And it really is a gift that we give by speaking those things that, the things that may just be in the back of your mind that you don't give a lot of thought to very often, but being able to get that out.
Right, because if it stays there, then it's not, what has it done for
I tell
anybody?
my boys all the time, I have little boys, and I tell them all the time, Mom doesn't know what's going on in your brain. Our words are powerful, and we need to speak what's in our mind, right, and get it out so then I can help you. And once we say it, then it's out in the world where we can work on it together. And, my 5-year-old still is having a hard time getting that. Yeah. So he's got time, though.
Yeah. So, it's sometimes harder for some people to use their words than others. And, and then you can write it down, maybe, if you can't. Throat chakra's blocked.
I know.
Maybe you write it down.
We tease all the time that even a lot of adults can't have a hard time getting the thoughts in their brain out. And even writing it down, maybe there is something too, like you're saying, where even if having the hard conversation feels like a lot, just writing it down and making notes where it can be accessible later is.
And there's so many resources for this now too. Yeah. So this exists, like you can find it in homework. There's like an end of life planner. So there's so many different like books and journal prompts and all these things that are created to support you in writing down your decisions. So you have something to give people. We
were talking a couple weeks ago about kids, how we talk to kids about grief. I was sharing a little bit about my personal journey of talking with my boys about the grief when my mom passed, and that felt complicated and messy, and I didn't have a lot of guideposts for what that even looked like, and I just was trying to be really honest with how this felt right for my family and my kids, and keeping eyes on our family culture. But do you have with Mourning Space, have you worked, I assume you've worked with all generations?
I do work with all generations. I will say that because I want to tread lightly in places where I don't feel like I have a ton of knowledge, I do leave that to kid experts, and we actually have one in Reading.
Oh, great.
And I tagged her in. So we actually have one in Reading, and she does a grief group just for kids at the Reading Rec Center.
Okay.
I'm really grateful to have her, and she always is sharing these ways to interact with kids in a way that is supportive of their grief and is tangible, hands-on processing. So I know that is a large part of the way we support kids is by allowing them freedom of expression.
Yeah.
And also, I had to tread this lightly with people, but often I would hear families say, we're not going to bring our kid to the funeral, right? That's not for them. And there is a little bit of like noise level protection, which I respect, but some people just didn't think their kid could handle it. Yeah. And some kids can't, maybe, but particularly when kids ask.
Yeah.
I believe involving them in some way is really important and shows them that they're an important member of your family community, shows them that their grief is valid, the way they want to show up is valued, and gives them a way to express like what they're feeling included. I'm never one to force a kid to do anything, so I even feel like seeing deceased people, deceased loved ones, is fine if they are not like, if they're like, then we're not gonna like force them.
We're not forcing.
We're not forcing, but we're letting them.
We don't force adults.
No, we don't force adults. So, but we open up the opportunity and let them choose in some way. And I know that there's this, how do we protect them? But they're much more pliable than we are. They're much more resilient. They speak in clear language when we give them clear language. So I do also say, like, don't say grandma's sleeping. Because now, what happens when I go to sleep?
Yeah.
Will I not wake up?
Right.
Will I go to sleep and wake up in a casket, or not wake up in a casket? So using real words with them helps them understand more clearly what's happening. And when we use euphemisms with kids, they tangle up the meaning with the euphemism, and then you might have to do some work untangling.
That's a really good point. So kids aside, I know that you work with all generations, right? And you've worked with elderly people that are grieving, and then I'm a old millennial. What do we call it?
The Xennial, or the Gen X, Xennial, yeah.
Is your experience that human beings largely grieve in a similar way because it's part of the human experience, or do you notice differences in how these generations are approaching the whole death and dying process? Do you see any differences?
So I do see in older generations sometimes, and if I'm honest, particularly men, we're taught to wall off feelings and do the thing, like get the job done, like take care of the family, do the thing, and we don't really have time to like feel anything about it. Like just get to do your work. In general, older generations can be more walled off with feelings. I am seeing, and maybe it's because death doulas are becoming more prevalent, maybe it's because I'm seeing best-selling books about grief. So I do think there is more curiosity about grief in these next generations after us. So I feel like there's a little bit of change happening. I feel like there's more, I think I even saw a study that said now people are actually more willing now to have a funeral than they had been in recent past. So they actually are starting to see the value in gathering together. And I'm not saying, in a chapel, in the way that you think a funeral has to look, but some kind of event.
Yeah.
So people are coming back to that. So I am heartened to see that there's a little more grief literacy happening, or at least a little people out there to give information.
I read somewhere a statistic recently about weddings and how common it is now for weddings to occur outside. And I was thinking, I don't remember the last wedding that I attended that was indoors, right? And we do a lot of church stuff, right? And I'm like, man, most of the weddings, even for people within our church, still have their wedding ceremonies outside. And I am curious if that trend it will follow with memorials and funerals. If people are just becoming more comfortable and that just feels more organic and connected in some way to have these outdoor ceremonies. I'm curious if we'll see any trends with memorials and gatherings.
I feel like there are a lot already out that are outside, and then you have places like Reading where like in some months that's just not so it doesn't matter if you want
on the lake.
Yeah. So you need that air conditioning. But I feel like I've done many funerals outside at parks and some homes, not as many homes, but.
Because the church used to be central to weddings and funerals. You needed clergy to be, central to that process. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think as people have changed the way that they think about these huge events and realizing that we can imagine this how we want to imagine it. And it doesn't necessarily have to take place in a specific building. It can just be in a space that feels special. It doesn't have to be large. It doesn't have to be 300 people, right? No. We don't have to have a big potluck afterwards.
No, you can sit in a circle right here, and this is a funeral.
Ritual can look large or small, but I love that word when you talk about ritual. That doesn't mean formal, and it doesn't mean ceremony.
There you go, formal. Yeah.
It can mean something very simple that just feels very true to what remembering looks like for you and those around you.
Yeah, totally. So the other thing that I do through Mourning Space is I'm a funeral celebrant, so I officiate funerals.
A funeral celebrant.
A funeral celebrant, yes.
I love that.
So I officiate funerals and celebrations of life, and mostly for people who don't have a church home. So if you have a church home, generally people are going to go to the pastor that's supporting them in life, and it makes sense that they would support them in death and participate in the rituals or ceremony of that faith, right? And that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of people don't have that anymore, and so they're left then calling a minister from a faith-based practice and then asking them to come in and do a funeral. And whereas a celebrant is non-denominational, some of us have our own, spiritual practices that we have, like I do, but we meet the family where they are and incorporate what it is that they want. And I typically deal with people who are just like not religious at all, or people who have faith but have a hard time tying that to a church or a specific religion. So they want someone to come in and like speak to their faith, but also, have it be what their faith looks like to them. Yes.
And at Aquaterra, we host memorials here, and one just recently that we hosted was for a family that had two distinctly different faiths within the family. And so as kind of a neutral ground. We were able to host this space that didn't feel like one family was being more represented, one part of the family was more represented than the other. And that felt like a huge honor for us, to be able to just kind of have a neutral space where people could come and express what was real for them, but it felt like peace. It felt like we were able to create a space of peace.
And it is a nice part about neutral spaces like outside, or like cultivated spaces that are neutral, that just don't bring up too much of one thing. But
because so you can focus, right?
So it's about the person and not about the stuff on the walls or whatever. I have done several with ministers as well. So like if part of the family was very Christian, and so they had, because I wasn't a Christian minister, they really wanted to make sure that element was incorporated. So they hired a Christian minister to do the prayers, and then I did the eulogy. And that was like it was an amazing service. I've done services for Catholics who would have a mass, but typically before the mass, I would have, again, writing the eulogy and speaking that beforehand or the night before.
And I know you can't name drop, but I know you've also done for celebrity families.
I can't name drop.
I know, no name dropping, but
so I have. So what's interesting is what I'll say is I've done services for people who lived very complicated, and by that I mean struggled to have community, to very prominent people, and through all of that I learned that everybody's story is interesting, and typically there's this idea of meaning making. You can learn something from everybody's life, and everybody's life is very interesting. So being a celebrant is the thing that I love most about anything that I do, actually, because I get to hear people's stories, and they're so cool. Like,
people are so interesting.
People are so interesting.
If you can become a good question asker, if you can just if you can learn to ask 3 or 4 and just keep on digging a little bit, my gosh, the things that you uncover. I've never met a boring person.
No.
Right? Even people that on the they may be a little more tight-lipped, but if you can get a couple questions in, it's like,
what?
I'm sorry, what?
I have no idea. It's so cool. And that's almost, I tell families this kind of afterwards, is when I sit with the family to gather the stories, that's almost, if not better, than the funeral itself for healing. Because they're sitting together, they're laughing, they're crying, they're remembering things that they hadn't thought of because they're talking together, and that's bringing up, and they're bouncing off of one another. And sometimes I'm doing very linear, and we're just talking about someone's life from beginning to end. But I love when the talk takes over and it's just like bong, 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 and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we've like lost the plot. And I was like, no, like, I love this. And so I just sit there. My process is like legal pad and pen. And I'm literally like scribbling down what people are saying, because that's what works well for me. And I love watching it happen. And then I love retelling those stories to the greater community. And when I do that, I'm able to, my goal as a celebrant is to fill in the person so they're there. I want a 360 view of a human, like, present with us. And if I talk to, let's say if it's a husband and I just talk to the wife, I get this part, which is, probably there's a lot of other people would have the same understanding or similar understandings or know similar things, but it's still like the relationship. But if I talk to the neighbor, then I get over here, and I talk to the kids, and I get over here, and then I talk to the nieces and nephews, and then I get over here. And the more people I talk to, the more I get to flesh out the person. And that's, to me, when a good funeral takes place, is when that person is now in the room. Because we've shared the things about them. And you can never share everything, but can you share enough where no one in the room leaves and says, I didn't know that guy. Who are you even talking about? You didn't even say their name right,
At my mom's memorial, we tried to do something like that, and instead of just having one person give the eulogy, it was a longer ceremony, because we had her sister, somebody speak on behalf of her sisters. My dad spoke on behalf of our family and our family unit. I spoke as her daughter. We had her friend speak on her behalf, and everybody offered a abbreviated eulogy, but it's one thing for somebody to try to speak on behalf of, it was really lovely to hear all these, what you're doing expertly is combining all of these perspectives, and rather than oftentimes we just get one perspective trying to summarize a life from one point of view.
Right. And I do love when people do that. I love when there is a special something that I can't recreate as an outsider when someone comes up and shares from the heart an experience that they had. And I do think that's valuable when everybody gets to share. I just also know that sometimes it's hard.
That's just what I was going to say is that you are a trustworthy guide in this process. You've been through this so many times. For me, getting up and giving a eulogy at my mom's memorial, I don't know how I think I blacked out. I don't really remember very much of it at all. And I would not expect that a lot of people would be interested or wanting to have that be a part of their grieving process. So there is something about being able to be held and handing it over and letting somebody else kind of carry that message and that story all the way through is really beautiful. Yeah.
And I love doing it for people, so it works out well.
We've talked about your work as a death doula, and I still think, well, I'll speak for myself, it can still feel a little mysterious because I've never worked directly with a death doula. I have a friend that's a death doula, but I've never worked with a death doula directly, and so I know I still have a lot of just mystery and curiosity around it. Can you, in very practical terms, what does that look like? Do you typically meet with families ahead of time in a pre-planning capacity?
So yes. And a death doula would be a non-medical professional that supports a family or a dying person or both at the end of someone's life, and even past that. With that said, death doula is a term for something that people have been doing forever, and 2, gets to be defined by the person doing it, by the things that maybe they're personally best at, or they're that sole purpose that they're there to do. And so the way I show up as a death doula may be different than the way that someone else shows up as a death doula. So, and now there's options because there's many of them, relatively speaking. So if there's something that's particularly important to you, then you should interview death doulas and find the person who's going to give you the support that you need, the thing that you are looking for to get you through this. What I offer as a death doula, so what I would say that I would do, particularly because of my history with funeral homes and cemeteries, I am an expert in sharing with people what their options are and what hurdles they might need to look out for, and how do we put a tentative plan in place so that when something happens, when death occurs, there's a plan to happen. I'm very Virgo. I love a plan. When you come to me, you will get it documented, and you will have bullet points, and you will have here's the people to call, here's their phone numbers, here's what you need to tell them.
Structure is healing. I really believe that structure. It's a superpower.
And that may not resonate for everybody. People were like, that's too heady for me. I don't want to open your emails. I want you to just handle it. But that's definitely something that I do. But also just a little respite care. So I can sit with your person while you can leave and have a little bit of your life back. Or I can do a little bit of your life so you can sit and feel like this obligation that's nagging at you, if it's something I can take care of, I'll take care of it so that you can be with your person.
Yeah.
I also help people write their eulogies or document stories for the family itself or the person who's dying, make sure that their stories still get recorded while we still have that time. Help people feel seen in their feelings while they're having to navigate everybody in the family's feelings. Yeah. So one sibling is feeling devastated, and one sibling is I am taking charge of this situation because that's the way they handle what's happening. Yeah. One maybe can't get out of bed, but helping them see that no way is wrong. It's just what we have learned to do. This is how we're coping right now. This is how we're taking an impossible situation and navigating it the best we know how. Yeah. And learning how to talk to one another, or rupture and repair, right? There's a lot of rupture sometimes in these times, but how do we come back and repair it? But also, and then I'm big on stuff, so let's take a look at what's in the house and who gets what. So that's as much of that is taken care of as possible. And then just allow people to feel like they aren't having to be alone in any of that. Like
Yeah.
they can call me and I will
Yeah.
help, right? If they want someone to make a phone call,
Yeah.
I will help them. I will make the phone call, you know?
I love that.
I will just be around so they don't feel alone.
Yeah. I have learned in doing this work for, we've been open for a year now, how much anxiety there is around the moment of death, and how much misperception there is around what death looks like. Again, before I had the opportunity to be in the room when my Mama Jo passed, and I was in the room when my mom passed, and I'm learning that is more experience being in the room when people pass than a lot of people have. And there's a lot of what people imagine death to look like comes from Hollywood, what we've seen death look like in movies. Yep. Having been in the room when my Mama Jo was passing, and the very unique aspects of death and the breathing and things that hospice nurses were giving us some context for, that were confusing and they were strange and a little bit scary, and having guides there to say this is normal, or right. I vividly remember one of the nurses letting us know, based off of the sounds they were hearing from her, that we think she's close, and there was some urgency with the family to make sure that the people that wanted to be in the room at the time were there. From that experience, then just a couple of years later when my mom was passing, and my brothers and my dad were not in the room when my grandmother passed. And there were some ways where I was even able to offer them some peace of, no, this is normal, this part is normal. And, oh man, that's something that I have had to grieve, is the fact that even in my mom's passing, that I was still taking care of my family, and that's okay. What an honor, what an honor. But even in that moment, that's just who I am, Right. And we all show up, we all have different roles that we play in family systems. But that was one that was strange looking back on, that I, in some ways, was acting as a death doula. Yes. I was a makeshift, unprepared, untrained death doula.
And that's the way most of it is. Yeah. And that's the way it used to be. Like, what do I have? I have a certification, I took a course, you know what I mean? And that's why I said, like, death doula is a term that's just, it's a term, but it's for this ancient thing that we've been doing for one another forever. Yeah. Right? So, yeah.
We hold each other's hand.
We hold each other's hand, and often we act in a death doula capacity, as we think of it, for our family and loved ones. A death doula professional would be one that would come and help you as you're doing that, so you're not having to do it by yourself.
Yes.
Right, by yourself, right?
Yes.
But you did ask that question about how people die, and I pay a lot of attention to this and educate myself so that I'm also able to share that information with people. But it's like, some people die peacefully in their sleep, and that's just it. And some people, they say this, right? Laboring in birth and labor in death. And so it appears as this very laborious process, and the breathing is very difficult and hard to hear, and you feel like they're in pain. But it's just the way the body processes closing down.
And just reassuring that they're not in pain. Gave me a lot of peace. But it does. It can sound like they're struggling.
Right. And I know that towards the end, people stop eating and drinking, and they're just like done. Right? They don't want it. And you can do there's a little sponge with water, and you put that on their lips. And that's it. They don't need anything else. And I know this logically. Yeah. And my dog was dying, and same thing for pets. They're done. Right? And I know this, and I know she's dying, but I'm like trying to give her water, and she's not taking the water. And then I make the broth, because I'm like, but it's meat juice. Like, maybe you want this, and try to make her drink it. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. I know better. Yeah. She's done. Yeah. But it's just in those moments, you really want it to be this isn't right. This means you're not going to be here. Yeah. I need you to drink the water. So even knowing and being faced with the reality of it can be very difficult. And then, if someone's there, it can be like, she's done.
Yeah. And I know that we've talked about rituals. When we were losing my Mama Jo, somebody recommended if we wanted to put lotion on her hands, put lotion on her feet, and that just felt like a very tender way for us to care. And I know this has been for thousands of years, people have been taking care of bodies as they die. Are there rituals that you
So
have?
yes, and those are ones that I love. Like, I love helping a family bathe and dress their people. I love helping them like do their nails or lotion or whatever it is, like these body tending things that allow us the opportunity to be with them in that physical way and intimate in a way of like, just I'm with my person. It feels very sacred. And that's one of my favorite ways to support people is to help them bathe and dress their people, just because I think it's a step that we miss out on, and there's no need to miss out on it, and can be very beneficial. Again, I don't want to tell everybody you have to do this, but if there's any part of you that's like, I might want to, like it might be worth exploring what that would look like.
There's something really therapeutic about caring for the body, because, well, from my experience, my mom's spirit, I still feel very close. But her body is gone. You know, her body is, I will never get to hold her hand again. But so just getting to tend to the physical body, because that is the piece that is transitioning, you know, and changing, is, again, I love that you're so gracious with holding space for people to process however they need to. For me, that was a beautiful step. And I was thankful that somebody that had a little more experience in this invited us into that, gave us permission that this, you know, in some ways it wouldn't be weird. It wouldn't be weird if you wanted to do, you know, things that were not even on my radar, that, you know, having some helpful guides to suggest without pressure, but just invite us into was beautiful. Beautiful. Because when you're grieving, you're just not really thinking.
No. And those are things we can, you know, talk about ahead of time. Is this something that you feel like you might want to participate in, and how do we make that work? Depending on where they are when they pass as well. Some cultures have that baked into it. So like LDS as a practice, they have the committee, you know, that takes care of that for the people in their church. I've done, when I worked in the Bay Area, so many like Sikh and Hindu and Muslim services where the community would come in and they would bathe and dress and all of the things, like ghee even, for some, like there's just so many ways that people tend to their loved ones
and honor them.
And it's that work that I did with other cultures, and I saw the way that they treated their loved ones that made me realize that there was another way. So I was navigating a phone call for my mother, and we're dealing with something complicated, and I expressed some frustration. And then what did you say to me?
You said, why do parents have to get old?
And
I said, well, at least some get to. That landed like a ton of bricks.
No, it did not. Actually, no. Well,
so we're friends. We're friends.
And these are like real discussions. And when you can like say these things to people and be able to joke about them, like I love it. I love it so much. And it's so true, because sometimes we're dealing with things that are complicated and bring up feelings as we're doing this stuff. But also like what happens when they're not there. Both things are true at the same time. Like, why do parents have to get old? But also like, that's a good thing that they get old.
They get to get old. Holiday season is upon us. We are going into May and June, which for those that celebrate know as Dead Parents season, where we are just reminded, the Dead Parent Club, kids are reminded that Mother's Day hits different, right? Father's Day, I still have my dad. I'm so thankful to have my dad around, and I appreciate him in a different way than I ever would have before losing my mom. But man, these seasons I know are just like unpleasant for, you know, Mother's Day's tough if you lost your mom.
There's signs, there's brunches. Everyone wants to tell you about their brunch. There's cards everywhere. There's like, your Mother's Day. Like you just get inundated at
my Instagram. I'm scrolling and I'm like, how has my Instagram not figured out that my mom's dead? Why am I still getting?
Well, they probably also figured that you're a mom.
They know I'm a mom.
They see you're a mom, and so then there's that tug of like, I'm a mom, but I don't even get to celebrate me being a mom because I'm.
It changes. We are layered people, right? These days totally bring up how layered we are. Yes, I am a mom, and so Mother's Day means something really special as a mom who loves her boys so much. Still a tricky day, and I will say, I think Mother's Day should be a 3-day event.
One day for your mom, and then one
mom.
day for your whatever, and then
and one day for the mother-in-law.
Oh, there you go.
The mother-in-law.
Yeah,
so Mother's Day should be a 3-day event.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm with you, because typically I feel like, Mother's just not necessarily for me. Well, my mom is here, and so I'm going to go do what I need to do for my mom.
Yes, yes, but it is a tricky holiday season that we get through,
and I will also say, working in cemeteries, this is an interesting thing. It's one of the busiest days in cemeteries.
Mother's Day. Really?
Mother's Day and Memorial Day are maybe
Really?
the two busiest days, and then Father's Day would maybe be the third.
Yeah. But that's just when everybody's
That's just
making a
when
visit.
everybody makes a visit, and cemeteries are prepared. Like, they know that people are going to come to see their mom on Mother's Day weekend, and so some will like have carnations or some kind of something.
So
for
it's a
people.
thing.
It is a thing.
It's a thing. Okay.
Moms are a thing.
You know what? Who knew? Moms matter.
But it just brings, and then there's the other nuance of like moms who have lost kids. It's like anything. There's light and shadow, and the light is all the great things about Mother's Day and all the things we want to celebrate, and the good stuff that happens. And then there's this like deep shadow of Mother's Day where people are deeply wounded and hurt and have all sorts of messy feelings about it. So just honoring the fact that that day and other holidays all are light and shadow, and we have to hold both together. And realize also, if we're someone who struggles with those days, to give ourselves grace to know that we don't have to like it, and like we can tap out.
Yes.
We can say we are not participating in this holiday.
This one's not for me.
No.
This one's not for me.
In fact, I'm going to go somewhere where I don't have to look at
Yeah.
any of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to,
And I know we've talked about it other times, but sometimes Mother's Day is a funny one because we talk about grief like a freight train. There's this freight train like on these big days, the big holidays, the birthdays, the death anniversary, the Mother's Day stuff where you just think, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it through that day? And then I don't know if some kind of numbness sometimes settles in, but sometimes those days just are not quite as bad as you think they're going to be. But then like there's this other random Tuesday.
grief is sneaky.
Yeah.
Grief is
like,
sneaky.
oh, that's the one that like leveled me out, you know?
So it's like, I use a landmine analogy of like,
Yeah.
you can see landmines sometimes, and then you expect to like trigger them, and then like, oh, it's a little, not so bad. Oh, okay, not so bad. I'll keep walking. And then there's a hidden one, and then that, blah, and then you're like knocked on your butt and doom scrolling or being depressed. So grief is sneaky.
It's sneaky.
And knowing part of grief literacy or grief acceptance or whatever it is that we do as people, like understanding that we are grieving people. That's the way, that's it. That's
okay.
That's what life is.
Let it
like,
be. Yeah.
Sometimes life will be hard. And we're not going to be able to stand up over that weight, under that weight.
I'm just letting it be messy.
Yeah, I'm just going to let it be messy. And I'm going to honor the fact that today my bandwidth is low, my capacity is low, this is what I can do. And tomorrow will be another day, and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Yeah, so I'm not hosting Mother's Day brunch, is
Wonderful.
what we're saying.
You have permission from me not to host Mother's Day brunch.
Just let it be whatever it needs to be,
Before I had kids, I really wanted kids like so bad. And my darling husband was so nice. He bought me a card from the dogs and a flower. And I'm like, but I'm not a real mom. Yeah. And it was like, Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. Just Mother's Day. Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Important thing, humor.
Yeah.
Humor is medicine. Laughter is medicine. We handle terrible, dark things with comedy. And whether or not you believe that should be true or not, the fact is it is. And humor gets us through a lot of things. And I try to be respectful in my humor, but also there's just like this understanding too. And when you have different experiences, your jokes sound a little different, right? And they may not land with everybody, but when you have people who do understand you and you come from, you're never gonna have the same thoughts about everything, but you have this shared language, and then the humor becomes shared as well. I do want to high five humor.
Yeah, high five humor. And like, you have to give yourself permission to go there. I have a couple friends who we are part of the Dead Moms Club. And it even feels, am I allowed to even announce that right now? But we say it because it's the humor of it. It's like, it's just so outrageous.
Well, you're in it, so you get to claim your club.
I get to say it.
And most of us are going to be a part of the Dead Moms Club.
Yeah, eventually.
That's sort of like where we...
Yeah, and I'm one of the newer members. Some of these women that are in the Dead Moms Club have been in the club for a lot longer than me.
Yeah.
And they welcomed me with open arms.
and some jokes.
Yeah.
And, there was this rush of... like, for Halloween, where people were like, my mom has a costume and you need to be nice about her. My mom wants to show you what she's dressing up as on Halloween. And then they'd pull out an urn that was like a Lego box. Or like they dressed it up in some sort of thing. And it's still happening now and I love it.
That's a
where
good
people
trend.
are like, do you want to do my mom? And then the people with the dead parents and their urns in the house. And whose moms were funny. Like who would have loved that?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like we don't take into account like the person and how like they would have like thought about it. Like
that's great. Okay, would you be open to a rapid fire? Ask the death doula.
Ask the death doula.
Drill the death doula. Can I say that?
I don't think so.
We'll make it. Gonna make it a thing.
I don't think you can say that.
Okay.
Rapid fire questions.
Yes.
I'm gonna do my best.
Okay. Tell me about how pain and grief get stuck in the body.
We got a lot of tension. We got a lot of emotions that are putting us on guard, right? And that's gonna affect all the way the rest of our body moves. But I would say things to note is like your sleep is going to be off or it's going to be like too much. You know, your sleep is going to be disrupted. You may feel just like tension in your body, like you almost like you have the flu or like achy. You're just like, what is wrong with me? Well, it's just the emotional load that you are carrying. Headaches. Yeah. You know, just any ways that you might feel like tension in your body. Grief can be. Grief is tension, and so you will feel it, and you should expect if you feel like you're not right in your body.
We're connected. It's all connected.
It's all working its way through you.
What comes to mind when I say performative grief?
What comes to mind actually is there was like a mourners you could pay. There's like this thing where you could like pay professional mourners and they would like wail.
I do. I want a celebrity at my funeral. If I have a funeral, I want like a B-list weird celebrity.
Peter Wolf or Peter Coyote.
And they're like, I didn't know she knew.
I want Peter Coyote to sob.
I don't know Peter Coyote.
So he's like a method actor, or like, some character actor from like the 90s. And I once saw him at a symphony.
At a symphony?
And it was really fun, That's a whole story. But So, and I was like, is that Peter Coyote? It was a random person for me to like recognize and know his name.
But that's who, you know what? If he met you once, he's going to want to be at your memorial.
No, I think we were both standing in line waiting to meet Patrick Stewart.
Oh, okay.
It's a long
story. If you can't get Patrick Stewart, get Peter Coyote.
There you go. I struggle with the word performative because I think that some people are naturally more expressive in their grief than others. I think some cultures are more expressive in their grief than others. I like and I, like even myself, I didn't know this about me, but like when my aunt died and I took care of her and I was getting her ready for my cousins to come see her, I was like sobbing, wailing, like loud. And I was like, what is that? Like I didn't realize I was gonna be a loud sobber. I hadn't been with my grandparents, but with her, like that was triggered and it was like, and it's surprising. So some people are just going to be louder and more expressive, and I feel like people's grief needs to show up. And there's always going to be weird people who are like now going to take advantage of it in some way or whatever. So there's that. But when the two things I think of is one of just the way people express their grief, either because of who they are or their culture, and then to the paid mourners.
Hey, which I'm not opposed.
I mean.
I love a little drama. Little drama.
It'd be fun. It's like the cameos. It's like a new type of cameo.
If I could get a cameo.
Famous people, new cameo, I'll show up at your funeral.
That's what we need.
You're welcome for that idea. Remember the little people.
Shia LaBeouf, that's what I want at my funeral.
That's not a B-list.
You're right, he's not B-list at all. He's not B-list.
I didn't even know that's how you said his name. So there's
Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. What would you say the death industry gets wrong about dying and families don't really realize until it's too late?
I don't know if they meant to do it. Death care's like Amazon a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
You have my attention.
So we made Amazon what it is today because of the convenience of getting what we want when we want it easily. We don't have to interact with a lot of things. Like we don't have to go to the store. Like we asked for it. And now we're left with the result of, are we
Right.
Hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
Are we grateful? Like
Yeah.
this is where we are now because we chose ease. And so I think over the years, people chose, I'm going to offload some of this work to the funeral home to make it easier on me. And I'll still get what I want, but I don't have to like do so much of the emotional labor, which is really difficult. And then funeral homes ran with that.
Yeah.
And so now there's this imbalance between families participating and what the funeral homes are doing for you. And I think a lot of funeral homes are trying to correct some of that imbalance, but also they're also, yes, I will serve you. Like this is what you want, this is what I'm here to do. So I don't know if they get it wrong necessarily, but it can be a sort of byproduct of the convenience of going through a funeral home that now we miss out on a little bit of the dressing our own people, or whatever that is.
Not until this moment I am in this industry, and I had forgotten that not all that long ago, families took care of the death process at home, end to end. We dug the graves, right? Yeah. That was the family's job, and that has totally transitioned into a service provider. But the thing that's hitting me for the first time is it's been done in such a way that we forget that it was even an option to do it another way. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Normalized.
So we've gone
families do not
180.
We don't even pause and think, is this something, even with food, do I want to raise my own, farm, have my own garden?
Chickens and eggs and all that.
Right. Do I want to do that, or do I want to go to the store? Well, most of us go to the store, but still there might be something in our mind that I could grow the tomatoes on my own. I could grow the basil on my own.
And then I don't know how to do it because we don't have a history of doing it. We don't have a family that taught us how to do it. So now we don't know how to do it.
And that is something that I do find industries, when an industry can make something feel very mysterious and almost magical, then you start believing that you can't be responsible for it yourself, which is an interesting switch. So I'm not recommending that families try to figure out how to, there are laws involved.
And that's what's they don't make it easy for you. That doesn't mean you can't do it. So,
but even the psychology of it, of realizing that this is something that for most of human history, families have owned this process, and our culture has shifted so significantly that we have even lost that piece of the imagination.
Yeah.
Thank you for naming that, because I feel like I hadn't thought of that before today. And here I am. You've broadened my perspective.
But you already participated in a little bit of by taking care of your mom in that way. So that's
you're right.
Just balancing. Yeah. Letting people do some of the work for you, because I do believe in delegating.
Yep.
But also claim the stuff that you're a part of. And side note, I love the action of digging a grave.
Yeah.
I dug a grave for my Rottweiler, and it was one of the most cathartic things that I had ever experienced. And it's the thing that actually shifted me to wanting ground burial, because I didn't know what I wanted. And I liked the idea of ground burial because of the way that I got to dig this hole for my dog. Yeah, I was just like crying and shoveling, and I was like, oh, this is
part of it.
This is grief. I'm working through it energetically. And my dog was actually dying at the time that we were digging it. Oh. And then as soon as we were done, we dug the hole, the dog was over here dying, and we went inside because we'd finished, and we came back out and the dog had died. And so we put the dog in the hole and shoveled him back up, and we were just like, whoa.
Yeah, but it's part of it.
And we're like, this is good work. This is taking care of our boy,
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. That's good. What would you say in our culture, what type of grief is not recognized very well?
Even with the loss of a person, we often find that societal expectations require us to get back on the horse and keep going. Yeah. So show back up at your job, be a normal human, don't cry, get stuff done. So I think even though we're probably we recognize the most and are more kind to one another when we know someone has lost a person, we still then you get a week.
Right.
You can get a week, 2 weeks, and then after that it's
back to it.
Yep. How'd you ever that?
Yeah.
No. And then it gets layered. So a spouse, people grant you more time than if, let's say, you lost a sibling. Right. Then you get less time.
Right.
And then you lose a pet, and then you get a day, maybe.
Right.
And then you get divorced.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, that guy wasn't good for you. You know, whatever it is that people say, and that may be true, but along with the loss of a relationship, you lost all of the foundation that your life was like really built on, and the who you were that showed up as a partner with this other person, and whatever life that you had created and had a future in creating.
Yeah.
So any loss that is not like really the loss of a close person, we have struggle recognizing grief outside of a day, you know, grief outside of like grief that takes time, grief that lives in us and change the way that we think and move and feel. Like that's like our brains get all foggy, like you're just underwater for a year, you know, and and it's happening to so many, and yet people still aren't acknowledging. That
I love that you're naming loss of a relationship. We even talk about loss of a dream, you know, the business that failed, right? You know,
I had one of those,
right. All these things that it doesn't just have to be a person, but anything that we give ourselves to, we give our time, we give our energy, we give our hope to, and when that thing shifts or is gone, and sometimes it's even hard because it doesn't have a clear death date. It doesn't have there's no death certificate, right? It's not like it ended, so it's just maybe things go. They just kind of fade away, and it's harder to even name that dream is dead. That you know, that thing is gone, and we have to go through the grief process with that too.
I actually wrote a workbook to have a funeral for a loss of a part of yourself. So let's say it's the part of you that was like, you smoke cigarettes, and you decided to give up because it's bad for your health, right? And now you are sad because it's like, where's my friend? The pack of cigarettes.
Oh, I love that.
Where's my that held my hand through all of these hard moments that I could go outside and take a break from all the people, and I can go outside and I had my like emotional support, and now that's gone, and I'm supposed to just like get over it, right? But the workbook actually walks you through acknowledging when you started smoking, let's say, and why. You know, what is it that you were getting at? What good stuff did it give you? But also, why now am I ready to change? Like, what is most important for me to now be ready to say goodbye to that? But how do I honor the fact that this was in my life, showed up for me in this way, and I like write out a funeral, and you plug in all the information, and like stand up and say the funeral, and maybe like, throw a cigarette in a fire pit or something like that. Just like say goodbye to it, and it doesn't like end it, because these are habits that are long term, and so you still can always go back, right? But it does give you a sort of signal of like, this time is over, and gives you some tools to like be this next version.
I love that.
Of yourself.
You have a lot of resources available. You make beautiful, cool things that don't feel stuffy and creepy and weird.
That is what I bring to funeral service. I am not stuffy and creepy and weird.
Where can people find these kinds of resources? How do we, like, people? I know that we have people listening that are like, I want that. I want that. I have friends I know that are
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Where can they find it? So you have morningspace.com?
I have morningspace.com. Literally, you could buy the workbook, Fire Under the Night Sky, on Amazon.
What's it called?
Fire Under the Night Sky.
Okay.
You can also send a messenger. I can
Okay.
send one to you. And then I have another workbook that's the Griever's First Aid. People would ask me, like, what do I do for someone who is like, there's someone just passed, I want to help them, I don't know what to do, or ways that I wanted to be able to share guidance with people, but I can't be everywhere at once. So I created this low-cost guide that has tips for the first 30 days of loss. So what's important, what's not important, scripts to ask for help, scripts to say no to things. So just information that I would, the quickest resources that I could give you that might be useful. And even like some herbal remedies like chamomile or different herbs that are sustaining for your body when you're in grief, but also like breathing exercises. So just like a bunch of tools, and you can choose like what might work for you.
No, that's great. We get questions like that all the time at Aquaterra. People are just like wanting to know what people, maybe not everyone loves a checklist. I know I love a checklist, and I know a lot of people in grief just want a step-by-step of what to do. And you know that, and you have built resources that function for somebody whose brain is very much in a grief space and are easy to follow and can just kind of be a lifeline. So we love at Aquaterra pointing people towards Karen and your work at Mourning Space.
Thank you.
Such a great resource.
One of the things that I would, you know, if I'm talking about the selling points as me as a death doula, I'm going to try to make big topics small and bite-sized and manageable. I don't want people to be overwhelmed. You're going to be overwhelmed already. I want to make it as clean as possible for you to feel like, okay, if I just do this one thing, I can go into this next thing.
Karen, thank you so much for being here. This has been a joy, and there are 1,000 more things we could talk about, and I hope that we can do more of this.
Luckily, we can hang out again.
Anytime, anytime. For those that are wondering about different options in terms of cremation care, Aquaterra Water Cremation, we are the only North State provider in water cremation services. We are the third in the state of California, and we are so proud to be able to offer this to our North State community. You can find us on chooseaquaterra.com, and there are many resources and videos online on all things water cremation, so find us at chooseaquaterra.com or on Instagram. We look forward to working with you in the future.